Want to segue
Absolutely.
into trans, since we're talking about the LGBTQ plus community and Blackness. You know, the HRC has reported that in 2021, we're only in June of 2021, already 29 members of the trans community have been murdered. 2020, 44 members of the trans community have been murdered. And one thing I noticed last year, because we really didn't have the opportunity to celebrate Juneteenth last year like we're doing this year because of course the pandemic and where we were as far as a nation and the state of the world, was in the conversation of Black Lives Matter. When you entered Trans Lives Matter into that, it was a weird space to be in, because I still think, even though we've had shows like Pose, we have shows like Legendary, we have people like Janet Mock, we have Laverne Cox, we have people that are very visible of the trans experience, and also here on TYT we've had people talk about their experience of being trans. It's still something that is trans and non-binary. I should also include non-binary in that as well. It's still something that is very puzzling to people, and people still aren't willing to bring that along. I always liken everything, and people in TYT know I love my Marvel comics. I liken all of us as Avengers assembling to fight Thanos, right? We're all like the Guardians of the Galaxy, the X-Men. We're all coming together to get the Infinity Gauntlet and get the stones from Thanos, right? And Thanos is the white nationalist, all the egregious people who are passing these bills. 8 passed already, 133 in legislation that may be passed across the country that are trying to erase trans people and trying to erase trans rights. So I just think in 2021, we absolutely need to still be talking about protecting our trans brothers and sisters. And that's something that people still aren't wanting. Not everyone, of course, we're not speaking in general terms, but in conversations I've had with people who are very conservative, they can't wrap their brain around that. What do you think?
It is difficult for some people to wrap their brains around because of this gender binary that we all grew up with, that we all were taught, right? Regardless of race or whatever, that this gender binary that we were taught. I think what the issue that this comes down to, I mean, there's multiple issues here, but the dehumanization of individuals solely based on their gender, I think it's breathtaking how horrible and awful this is. I mean, I think about like Tiara Banks, who was just sitting in her car in Chicago, and someone just walked up and fired at her because she's trans, and killed her. We're allowed to just take people's lives. And I think there are some parallels there in what we, understand. A lot of people have been saying today on social media things like, thanks for the holiday, but we really just asked you to stop killing us as a Black people. I would say that as well, trans individuals, particularly trans individuals of color, are also saying the same thing. And they're saying that to everyone. Mm-hmm. This gender, not having a gender binary, if that's something that you don't necessarily understand as a human being, it still doesn't mean that killing that person that you don't understand is the answer, right? And I think that comes from that really, really, really deep-seated, obviously transphobia, but homophobia, this the prudish nature of our country as well, right? When we talk about things like sexuality in general, it's something that we don't talk about. People don't like to talk about those things. And so instead of being exposed as maybe a cisgender identifying individual who is attracted to a trans woman, instead of being exposed for that, you're just going to kill that individual. These are things that actually happen because so much of this violence is like intimate partner violence as well as stranger violence. Right. These are really incredible things that happen. And, I say this while I have an opportunity speaking to the people watching. It is really important that we as a collective, we throw all these letters out, all the time, Jason, but they really do mean something to a lot of people. LGBTQ plus community. A lot of people, particularly cisgender gay men, just sort of stopped at gay marriage. And we're like, okay, great. We can get married now. We're cool. I can have my parade in West Hollywood or Boys Town or Chelsea or whatever. All right, I'm good. While our trans family are out there dying. And to me, this is irresponsible. And, I got mine. So I'm going to make sure, I'm not going to worry about anybody else. And I think that as a community, as a collective, particularly Black folks, this is something that our lives can't matter. Black lives can't matter. Our lives can't matter until trans Black lives also matter, right? I will extend that, right? All lives can't matter until Black lives matter. Well, Black lives can't matter until Black trans lives also matter, right? And so we have to stop killing Black trans women in general. And this is not a challenge to anyone. This, to me, is just something that is very fundamental in terms of the power and the meaning behind the Black Lives Matter movement. And of course, the great white awakening that happened last summer has to include trans women. It has to include queer folks of color, or the movement is null and void, in my opinion.
I couldn't agree more. And, it's someone had said, T.S. Madison, who is a very outspoken woman of the trans experience, a trans superstar, if you will, she has said that people who fail, especially in the Black community, people who fail to recognize trans lives, it's also another form of privilege. Like you highlighted, cisgendered gay white men stopping at gay marriage. And that is a blatant form of privilege. Like, okay, fine. That was our initiative that we fought hard for. We got that. Nothing else matters. And if you want to take it into the Black community, not recognizing trans lives, being Black is just us enacting a certain form of privilege. So I couldn't agree more. And it's very interesting because during last summer, when the height of the Black Lives Matter movement, I saw a lot of, and I don't want to say allies because the term allies has become, I would say, I want to start saying the word accomplices, an accomplice, because they are instead of saying an ally, they're an accomplice and helping us get our initiative and our point across, right? But I saw more of our accomplices doing more for trans women of color than actual people of color, which was mind-blowing, right? Mind-blowing. But I think that it's something that we need to also keep the conversation going, because 20% Black trans women are 20% more inclined to be harassed by the police. And you, being a medical professional, can speak to this as well, also enters mental health, right? Not being able to have a job, turning to sex work. There's all these different, it's a domino effect of things that happen in their life or just how they move through the world that is truly tragic. So, I mean, I can't say it enough, and I'm glad you were able to highlight that to our viewing audience, because that's just a conversation that I like to have with people, and that I've been championing on my social media about trans Black lives, because it's just something that's important. And I think now more than ever, we are so fortunate that we have technology. The way we're talking to each other right now, we have the privilege of Google, Google, Alexa, Siri, AI, automation,
all of it,
right? All the things to educate ourselves on stuff that we don't know, because ignorance is just a lack of education, right? Once you can, and then JR was talking to the previous guest and said, ignorance is a lack of education, but once you're educated and you still don't know, you're just stupid. So it's like people are making stupid choices to not support trans. So that's all I'm going to say on that.